There's a man right now standing in front of the last door he left open for his wife, and he's about to lock it forever. There's a reason he doesn't buy you flowers anymore. Doesn't reach for your hand, doesn't whisper, "I love you," in the quiet moments. And it's not because he doesn't feel it. It's because, for most men, romance feels like the opposite of manhood. Romance is women's business. It belongs in fairy tales and chick flicks. It's soft, emotional, exposing. We're taught that a man's job is to protect, provide, produce, not to gush, not to get poetic, not to feel so much love it catches in your throat, because that feeling, that's the same place crying lives. And we don't go there. We suppress it, we laugh it off, and then we humiliate it. We mock it in other men. We mock it in movies. We mock it in ourselves until it's buried so deep. Even when we want to love her like that again, we can't even reach it because we locked it away and then threw shame on top like cement. If you're a man watching this, I'm about to cut you open and show her the part of you that you've never had the words for. You don't feel romantic anymore, not even a flicker. And no, it doesn't scare you. It never felt safe to begin with. Romance never felt natural to you. It always felt like the opposite of being a man. It felt like putting on a dress, like smearing makeup on your face and standing in public crying, exposed, embarrassed, effeminate, weak. Everything you were raised never to be. But you did it anyway, because when she looked at you with that light in her eyes, it felt worth it. You stepped out of your character, out of your armor, because you loved her and you thought, maybe this is what it takes. So you wrote the love letters. You made her a mixtape or a CD. You spent hours rewinding songs to get it right. You took 2 buses across town just to wave at her through her window. You wrote things on cards you'd never say out loud. You sat through romantic movies pretending to be bored, but you watched every second, and when she cried, you hugged her close so she wouldn't see how shiny your eyes were. You picked flowers from your neighbor's garden. You called her house phone, terrified in case you spoke to her mom or her dad first. You waited by the phone like an idiot, hoping she'd call back. You told your mates you were just tired, so you could stay home and talk to her for hours. You secretly listened to Celine Dion and publicly blasted Meatloaf, Bon Jovi and Def Leppard because if it had a guitar solo, no one questioned the lyrics, did they? You said, "I love you," first. And when your voice cracked, you played it off like it was nothing. Oof, it all felt awkward, exposing, like you were pretending to be someone else. But you did it anyway, because you loved her and you thought, maybe this is what love looks like. But slowly, imperceptibly, it shifted. She started to expect it. Worse, she started to withhold for it. Sex became a reward. Affection became currency. Romance became a game you were being tested on and punished for failing. And when you did make an effort, when you risked being soft again, she'd say, "You're only doing this because you want sex." And the worst part is, sometimes, most of the time, she's right. Because sex was the only place where you felt wanted, where your love wasn't judged or picked apart, where you could be close without performing, But now even that's gone cold. So you do the bare minimum. You dip your toe in, see if she softens. But she doesn't. She recoils, and it confirms what you feared all along. Not only is romance the opposite of masculinity, it's disgusting to your wife. You're no longer the charming man she longs for. You're the desperate one she shrinks away from. So you stop touching. You stop speaking that language, not out of anger, out of self-protection. Because romance always felt like weakness, but now it feels like shame. So you only try when you're desperate. Not romantic, not bold, just desperate. And you don't dare go big. You don't pour your heart out. You don't grab her waist and just kiss her like you used to, because when you did, she didn't melt, she flinched. She looked at you like you were trying something, like it was a trick, like you were a scammer and romance was the bait. And in that look, you felt disgusting, like your love wasn't love, it was manipulation, like you weren't a man trying to connect, you were something darker, a liar, a user, a predator. You weren't just unwanted, you were wrong. So now you do the safest thing possible. A back rub, a foot massage, a hint that's easy to dismiss as not a hint. You hope it lands, you pray it means something, but inside you already know how it plays out. If she doesn't snap at you, she'll relax into it, she'll enjoy it, and then she'll look at you sideways and say something that cuts deeper than silence. Is this just because you want sex? And even if you say no, even if you pretend to be Mr. Casual, she knows. And you know she knows. Because, yes, part of you does want sex. Not for the act, not for the release, but because it's the last place you remember feeling wanted. It's the last time you weren't holding back your love like it might shame you. But now even sex has changed. It's no longer mutual. It's no longer heat. It's a gift she gives you when you've passed the invisible test, when you've been useful enough, selfless enough, disconnected enough from your own desire. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe the same thing she does. That you're a disgusting predator for wanting her. That your need is shameful. That any romantic move you make is just manipulation in disguise. So now you flinch at your own tenderness. You filter every touch through the question, how will this look to her? And in trying so hard not to be the bad guy, you became something worse. Pathetic, clingy, unwanted, the kind of man she turns away from, not with fear but from disgust. It wasn't just what the world taught you, it was what her rejection confirmed. You reached for her and she pulled away. You climbed into bed early and she turned to face the wall. You stood in the hallway with a smile hoping for a kiss and she gave you a list of chores. You said, "You look beautiful," and she sighed like it cost her something to hear it. And when you do have sex, it's quiet, disconnected, like a chore she's ticking off so you'll finally shut up. She closes her eyes. She turns her face away. And you try not to notice, but you do. So you try harder. You question your technique, your body, your weight, your timing. You wonder if maybe if you moved slower, you spoke softer, acted more like the guys in the movies. But nothing works because deep down, it doesn't feel like she wants you. It feels like she's allowing you, like she's doing you a favor, like she's enduring you. And you hate that it still means something to you. You hate that you still need it. You hate that you can't stop needing her, even though every time you try, you feel more pathetic than the time before. She doesn't move towards you. She doesn't hold you after. She rolls over like she just did the dishes and she wants to go clean herself. And you lie there, staring at the ceiling, feeling used, even though you were the one who asked, like you took something that wasn't fully given, and worse, like she let you believe she wanted it just long enough to get it over with. Like you were tricked into thinking you were wanted, and now you're lying next to the truth that you weren't desired, you were tolerated. And suddenly you don't feel close, you feel dirty, stupid, betrayed. And it confirms the story you've been trying so hard not to believe. You're disgusting, a user, a leech. You're not the man who takes her breath away. You're the man who drains her, the one she endures. And just when you think it can't get any lower, you walk into the room and she's crying over a chick flick or a book. Not just teary, she's sobbing. And you glance at the screen. Some perfect man is saying the right things. Big gesture, rain, vulnerability, passion, and it guts you. Because this is what she wants, not you, not this life. She wants a billionaire with a six-pack and a speech that melts her, and you'll never be that. Not in this body, not in this house, not in this life. And even though you don't say it out loud, it's written inside your ribs like a scar no one can see. It's carved into your soul and tattooed into your heart. I'm not her fantasy. I'm her failure. And eventually, the message sank in. Don't try, not like that, not with her. Something inside you, something sacred, closed. You didn't stop loving her. You just stopped offering the parts of yourself that could be laughed at, mocked, used. So now you touch only when it's absolutely necessary. You speak love in a language you're ashamed to use, a nod, a chore, a safe gesture that won't be misunderstood. You say and you do less, not because you don't care, but because everything you say or do is suspect. A compliment must be leading to sex. A hug must mean you want something. A gift, what did you do wrong? So you hesitate. You replay conversations in your head. You think 5 steps ahead just to say, you look beautiful today. And eventually you decide, I'm just not even going to say it. I'll just say nothing. You still feel everything, but you don't show it. Because when you did, it hurt. Not in the chest, in the gut, where men store shame. So you buried it under practicality, under duty, under survival. You don't want to be soft. You're a man. You've built thick shields all around you, and somewhere in that armor you left one small, tiny little door cracked just a tiny bit for her. Even after all the rejection, even after all the coldness, you kept it cracked just a bit, just in case. But now, you're standing in front of it, ready to just quietly click it shut and lock it. Not out of spite, but because what's the point? Every time you let her in, it gets used against you. Your openness is weakness. Your romance is pressure. Your tenderness is manipulation. So you stand there, hand on the handle, telling yourself, it's better this way. It's safer. And you say the thing that feels like strength, but is really surrender. I'll love her, but I won't need her anymore. Because needing her, that's the wound. That's where it hurts. That's where you get made to feel pathetic, desperate, disgusting. So, you kill the hope. Not dramatically, not with a big speech, just quietly inside yourself. You bury it and call it maturity, call it focus, call it whatever helps you sleep. But deep down you know exactly what it is. It's giving up on ever being loved the way you long to be and pretending that you're fine with it. And to the wife, if she's listening too, I'll say this: you have more power than you think. Not to fix him, not to mother him, but to meet his courage with kindness. To stop turning away when he finally reaches out. To stop looking for the flaw in every gesture. To stop measuring love by how closely it matches the movie in your head. Not because he's doing it perfectly, but because he's doing it at all. That awkward compliment, that clumsy hug, that small attempt at closeness, it might have taken everything he had. So please meet it with grace, not pity, not a performance, just presence. Let him feel just once that his love isn't embarrassing, that it's welcome. Because if you want romance, you have to stop closing the door every time it shows up in a way you didn't expect. And you don't have to protect yourself so much anymore. I know why you pulled back. I know how heavy it got, how lonely it felt to give and not feel held in return. I know you started bracing for disappointment because hoping for romance started to hurt more than living without it. But maybe, just maybe, you can open that door a little again. Not wide, not all at once, just enough to notice what he's trying to give. Even if it's awkward, even if it's late, not because he's perfect, but because he's not because he's finally figured it out, but because you remember what it felt like when you used to meet in the middle. And you want that again, right? Not the fantasy, not the movie, just two people reaching. And to the husband who watched her cry over that movie, understand this, she's not crying because the man is 6'4" billionaire with the massive dong and abs. She's crying because he risks something, because he lays his heart on the line knowing he could be rejected, because he doesn't love her with strategy, he loves with courage. That's what she's aching for. Not money, not abs, risk. And to the wife who's felt like she's carrying the romance alone, those small things he does, or he's going to do, the quiet compliment, the soft touch, the awkward attempt to connect, they are grand gestures. Not because they're impressive, but because of what it cost him to do them. When a man's been shut down long enough, when every touch has been misunderstood, when every word feels like a setup, offering anything starts to feel like walking into fire. And if he still does it, that's not the filthy, shameful perversion you think it is. That's love in its bravest form. So now, to both of you, the bravest thing either of you will do right now is trust again when every part of you wants to shut down. Not because it's easy, not because it's fair, but because the alternative is living like strangers in a life you built together, quietly waiting for one of you to leave first. It was never malice, it was never hatred, just a slow death built on a tragic misunderstanding. But it doesn't have to stay like this. There's still a version of your marriage where the door never closes, where the silence doesn't win, where love isn't something you protect or withhold, it's something you offer freely again, where you reach for each other without flinching, where touch isn't tested, where no one braces or checks before they speak, where a hand on the lower back means, I still see you, where a kiss isn't calculated, it's natural, it belongs, where neither of you second guesses your kindness and no one feels like they have to earn being wanted, where the smallest moments feel full again, not because anything dramatic changed, but because you stopped pulling away, where you laugh in the kitchen, where you hold each other longer in bed, where you talk about real things again, not because you have to, but because you want to. And when that happens, the sex is different. The silence is different. Everything's different. Not perfect, but alive, honest, unbreakable. The romance didn't die. It just needed both of you to trust it again. And you still can.